Drawbacks and limitations of studying in USA. There are several drawbacks that international students face when studying in the United States, some of which include cost. Studying in the US can be expensive, especially for international students who are not eligible for many of the financial aid programs available to US citizens and some international students. The cost of tuition, room, and board, and other expenses can add up quickly, making it difficult for some students to afford to study in the US. Culture shock. International students may experience culture shock when they first arrive in the US. This can include feelings of homesickness, frustration with language barriers, and difficulty adjusting to different customs and traditions. Visa requirements. International students must obtain a student visa in order to study in the US, which can be a complex and time-consuming process. Additionally, maintaining a valid student visa can be challenging, and students may face restrictions on their activities, such as working off campus. Academic differences. International students may find that the academic culture and expectations in the US are different from those in their home countries. This can include differences in teaching styles, grading systems, and expectations for student participation in class. Homesickness. Being far from friends and family can be difficult for international students, especially during holidays and special occasions. Language barriers. Although many international students are proficient in English, they may still struggle with language barriers, especially in academic settings where specialized vocabulary and language are used. Racial or cultural discrimination. International students may experience discrimination based on their race, ethnicity, or national origin. This can range from subtle forms of bias to more overt acts of racism or prejudice. It's important to note that while these drawbacks can present challenges for international students, many students are still able to have a positive and successful experience studying in the US. Limitations for international students studying in USA on F1 visa. F1 visas are designed for students who are pursuing a full-time course of study at a US academic institution. F1 visa holders are subject to certain limitations, including work authorization. F1 visa holders are generally limited to working on campus for a maximum of 20 hours per week while school is in session. During holidays and other periods when school is not in session, they may be allowed to work full-time on campus. Off-campus work authorization is limited and requires special permission from the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services (USCIS). F1 students are subject to strict rules and regulations, including maintaining full-time enrollment and making normal progress toward completing their academic program. Failure to comply with these rules can result in the termination of their visa status. Uncertainty. The F1 visa process can be uncertain and unpredictable, with applications sometimes being denied for no apparent reason. This can be frustrating for students and their families who have invested a great deal of time and money into the process. Duration of stay. F1 visa holders are expected to complete their studies within the time frame specified on their I-20 form, which is the document used to obtain the F1 visa. Difficulty transferring to a different school. If a student wishes to transfer to a different school, they must obtain a new visa and go through the application process all over again, which can be time-consuming and complicated. After completing their studies, they are generally allowed to remain in the U.S. for a limited period of time to participate in optional practical training, OPT, which is work authorization related to their field of study. Travel restrictions. F1 visa holders must maintain their full-time student status and may not travel outside the U.S. for an extended period of time without prior authorization from USCIS. Despite these limitations, there are several options for F1 visa holders who want to work in the U.S. after completing their studies. Optional practical training, OPT. F1 visa holders may apply for OPT, which allows them to work in the U.S. for up to 12 months, or up to 36 months for certain STEM fields, in a job related to their field of study. H-1B visa. After completing their studies, some F-1 visa holders may be eligible to apply for an H-1B visa, which allows them to work in the U.S. for up to 3 years, with the possibility of extending for an additional 3 years. Green card. F-1 visa holders may also be eligible to apply for a green card, which allows them to live and work permanently in the U.S. This though can be a very long wait of above 10 years plus. It's important to note that each of these options has specific requirements and conditions, and the availability of these options will depend on the individual circumstances of each student. F-1 visa holders should consult with an immigration attorney or accredited representative for more information on their specific situation. If you want to migrate to USA after completing your studies, then be prepared to wait for many years to get your USA green card. So before going to USA for your studies on F-1 visa, do think twice. Like and subscribe.